Depression played a large part in my eviction. But if I'm being truly honest and taking accountability for my actions, me mismanaging money, mismanaging my time, being rude to people, and choosing to stay in a cycle that I knew was doing me no good are also very important reasons why I became homeless in 2020. Furthermore, when we discuss depression, it's important for me to point out that my depression stems from the trauma I faced growing up homeless. That trauma that I never dealt with. That trauma that I pushed down and buried deep. So, if we're really and truly being honest, not dealing with the trauma from the beginning is also an important reason why I became homeless. So now that we know the reasons why I became homeless, let's discuss how I came about taking accountability, because I did not do it up front. In fact, up front, everyone else was to blame except for me. Leland was to blame. He didn't have his money. When in reality, if I was managing my money better, I would have had an emergency fund where I could have just pulled the $300 like that and boom, bam, boom, paid it. Or if I wasn't such a horrible tenant, I could have went to the leasing office, had a conversation face to face, said, here is the issue. Please, let's work something out. So December 2nd comes and I'm acting like nothing has happened. Like my life hasn't just completely shifted. Because if I pay attention to it, then I have to deal with it. And I didn't want to deal with it. I wanted to move on and feel like nothing happened. So Leland had a place to stay with a friend, and I was left with our 2 cats and a Motel 6. Majority of our stuff sandwiched in some storage closet somewhere. I thought that while still being a rideshare driver, I could pay to live in a Motel 6 for $600 a week and still manage to save enough money for a deposit and first month's rent in a new apartment for Leland and I in 2 months before the eviction hit our credit. Notice there's no change that happens in that plan. There's no difference from what I was doing before. I was trying to solve my problem while using the same tactics that got me into the problem in the first place. I eventually wised up. It took me only 2 weeks to realize there was no way in hell I could do that. There was no way in hell I could stay in a Motel 6 and save money at the same time. So what was my next thought? Fuck a Motel 6. I'm going to live in my car and save the money that way. I did not own that car. It was a rental, a rideshare rental. On top of that, living in a car is a bit much for one person, but it is not okay for 2 cats. And I don't understand why I thought I could rideshare and live in a rented car with 2 cats and make enough money to get a new place. I just was running. Yes, I got fired from rideshare driving because nobody wants to get in a car on their way to work and be like, oh, meow, there's this cat here. No. I was holding on to any strand I could from my old life, but that life no longer existed. A change needed to be made. So I gave up the cats. And I decided it was time to get a real job. I got hired on to the very first job that I applied for. I started working on January 20th. At this time, I had no money to sustain the rental. So I had to give up the car. Until my very first paycheck, I either stayed in emergency shelters or I slept outside alone. Emergency shelters in Orange County, California is not something I will wish on anybody. Because Orange County is a place where people do not want to acknowledge homelessness as a serious problem, there are rules in place. You cannot walk up to a homeless shelter in Orange County, because if a homeless shelter is placed somewhere in Orange County, the residents living near that shelter do not want to know it's a shelter. So you cannot walk up to a shelter. You have to go to a designated spot and catch a bus, a shuttle bus, from that designated spot to the shelter. If you miss that bus, then you're out of luck. I lived in a shelter in the center of Orange County. I worked in the southernmost cities in Orange County. I rarely made that bus. So there were many nights where I slept on a bus bench for the night. I remember being cold. I remember being terrified that someone would come by and, attack me or try to take what I had. I never got much sleep those nights. And when I did make it to the shelter, we were so squished together on mats on the floor. There was never much sleep to be had in those places either. As horrible as it sounds, I was still running. So when I received my first paycheck, I gave up majority of it to get a new rental car so that I can sleep in that rental car. I came up with a plan to, I know I wouldn't be saving much, but I could at least save $100 for every paycheck and then just build it up. And so that was the plan. Leave work, get in my car, drive back to where I was sleeping. In the morning, I would wake up, find a nearby Starbucks, walk in to their restroom, wash up, change my clothes, and do it all again. That was the plan, to just work that plan until I made up enough money for a deposit and first month's rent. That plan might just have worked if COVID hadn't hit. Because now all of a sudden I'm furloughed and I can't leave the car because we're under a stay-at-home order. My home was the car. So I was locked down in the car. No businesses were open unless they were essential. Most things you can only access through drive-through, which means I could no longer go to Starbucks and wash up. Everything was closed. So I couldn't use the restroom. So I went to the dollar store and bought serving bowls. And in my car, I would squat over the serving bowls to use the restroom. That shit opened my eyes. And that means two things. That's why, by the grace of God, the pandemic was actually a blessing for me, because it allowed me to sit and really look at where I was. That's no way to live. And it really forced me to realize that I was living that way because of my own actions. It was nobody else's fault. I was here in that situation again because of the decisions that I had made months ago. And if I wanted to change the way I was living right now and improve my life, I needed to make some changes. So I looked at every single reason why I became homeless, and I created a goal for each reason. When it came to managing my time, I created a morning routine, a daily routine, a weekly routine, a monthly routine, and I stuck to it. When it came to mismanaging my money, I went back to work, I gave up the car, and I set a plan to sleep on the streets for 6 weeks and save every dime that I made so that I could be able to afford a room for rent at the end of that 6 weeks. I also started a business. When it came to being nice to people, 4B was on a break, a hiatus. I hadn't posted in 4B in months. I restarted 4B and I used my social media platform to tell funny stories and to, inspire and motivate people, to put a little bit of serotonin and light in the world when so many people were going through their darkest times. When it came to my mental health, I started journaling and meditating in the morning. I started reading books that helped me work on my mentality. I started doing the work to switch all of those negative habits that I had built that led me to the situation that I was in. We know the rest of the story from there. I was able to make those changes, and with those changes, I was able to find a home in 5 weeks. A week before my goal. But I wouldn't have been able to do any of that if I hadn't sat down and taken accountability for my actions. My actions caused a reaction, me losing my place, caused a reaction, me being homeless. Nothing was going to change until I changed. And that starts with taking accountability. Today, I get to use the restroom and the toilet. Today, I live in an apartment that I absolutely love. I have my own room that is furnished. I have my own little YouTube studio. I have a shelf. I purchased this shelf. I've never bought a shelf before. I bought this from Amazon. I like my little corner shelf. I have a mini fridge over there in the corner. I have a bed with 5 pillows. Am I living the life that I want to live? No, but I'm on my way there because I'm walking in my purpose, and I am no longer mismanaging my time, my money. I'm nice to people, and I'm working on healing every single day. I have a therapist now who she's doing the Lord's work. Let me tell you, she's doing the Lord's work. I am happy. And I am finally moving forward. I hope me sharing these graphic details and putting my entire business out here in these streets has helped you do some deep thinking in your own life. If you are living a life that you do not like, if you are unhappy right now, then you need to take a look at your actions, because the actions that you did yesterday are the reason why you are where you are right here and right now. It's nobody else's fault, and no one else is going to come and save you. You have to put in the work, and it starts with being 100% responsible for everything that you do and taking that accountability. so much for watching today's video. I hope it helped you. If it did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. If you'd like to join the 4B Queendom, that can easily be arranged. Go ahead and subscribe below and click the notification bell so you never miss any content. And remember, everything that I say, everything that I do is to show you that you are magnificent. You have power. You have purpose. I see the queen in you.